Hey, what's up, everybody? And welcome back to your favorite podcast, your favorite Portals podcast, Tijuana to Vegas. In our last episode, episode 4, we went ahead and did a brief recap of the time that I spent from my journey from LA to San Diego and back to Tijuana and crossing literal and metaphorical boundaries. But I'd like to welcome you back to Tijuana to Vegas. Like I said, in this episode 5, and today I'm taking you back to my childhood when I was 8 years old, navigating life in Tijuana, feeling like a stranger in a strange land. Now, imagine being a kid in a place where you don't speak the language, relying on your big sister to translate, and crossing the border every day for Catholic school. Let's dive into that crazy time in my life. Well, life in Tijuana and Catholic school. Stranger in a strange land, so to speak. So the move to Tijuana was rough. I had mentioned in the previous episodes. Since my parents split after the accidents, body cast, and my dad almost dying, I skipped around from place to place, ended up living with different family members, and eventually the person that would ultimately take care of me and educate me and grow me into the man that I am today, that I'm proud to be, educated, well-mannered, somebody that might not have millions of dollars but has class, something you can't buy, and the education that was institutionalized in me and in my mentality of being a winner and being resilient and not let anything ever stop me or anyone ever say I can't do something. Because everything and anything is possible with the right mindset and the right team behind you of supporters. You can do anything. But I remember there were some things that I couldn't do at the age of 8 because I wasn't an adult then. I was just a kid. And wow, I remember relying on my sister as a translator was my guide and my lifeline. Without her, I was lost. So I get driven down by my Aunt Rachel. We're driving in her town car, Lincoln, and she's driving me with the few items that I have. Maybe I might have a box of some memories and a little bit of clothes, not much. Traveling light like always. So she's driving me from Bonita, California to Playas de Tijuana, which is probably, it's a good hour drive. Takes you about maybe 30 minutes to get to the border, another 30 minutes to get down to where I grew up at. So we're in the car and she's telling me, and just remember at this time that I'm an 8-year-old child that was, um, a product of a alcoholic father that was physically and verbally abusive to my entire family. And because of that, me being in the body cast and my parents having to split, my mom finally saying, I need a better life for my children. Going through all these steps, finally making it down to my Aunt Rachel's. Now we're in the car. We're in the town car, we're driving. And I'm scared, I'm full of anxiety. I have no idea what's going on in my life. The only thing I can think in my mind is where are my parents, where's my sister, what's going on, where am I going? And I remember my aunt just saying, I'm going to bring you to your grandma's house, which is your mom's mother. and you're gonna live there with your sister Brenda, and she's gonna raise you. And it's not like I had a choice. So that's what I was told, and I was a very silent kid at that time. I didn't speak a lot. I think probably because of all the trauma going on, I was just kind of trying to process it. But I remember the very first time that I walked into my grandma's house. And you can check out the house on the docuseries episode 9, where it's called Welcome to Tijuana, where I show you the house that I grew up in. And you can also find that on my YouTube page, along with the other docuseries from 2019 up till 2024, which I like to call 2025 because I am Portals, your ultimate time traveling, time bending mofo from the future, past, and present. But I remember walking in to my grandma's house, the gated fence, walking in, knocking on this giant wooden door. And I remember my grandma, no, it wasn't my grandma that opened the door. It was a lady that worked there as an assistant for my grandma, helping her with food, clothes, etc., for all of her children in the family or whatnot. And she opened the door, and I was with my aunt. And then I remember she called out for my grandma. My grandma was always in her room, so we always have to call out for her, abuelita, abuelita. And then she came out, and I remember she met me halfway between the door and the kitchen, and she said, "Hola, mijo, ¿cómo estás?" And I didn't know what to reply. And I remember that I hadn't had a haircut in a long time because of financial difficulties, and my hair was like looking long like the Beatles type thing, but it wasn't in a good cut, you know what I mean? So I was looking a little shaggy. And I remember my grandma opened her arms up to me and she said, "Come here, mijo," and she gave me the biggest hug. And she kissed me on the head, and she was so happy. She said the translation into English, that she was so happy that I had came to live with her, and that she was going to take care of me and make sure that I got a good education, and that I had all the things that I needed in life to prepare myself for my future. And that's where the house began. So soon after meeting my grandma, I met my grandfather, a couple aunts and uncles, but at this point my sister had not returned from school yet because she was going to school and she was also going to cosmetology school. So she was very hard worker. My sister has always been my hero, the person I look up to, the person that's always done everything very straight edge in a straight way. Because they say the fastest way from A to B is in a straight line. And I'm zigzagged, circled up, squared out, and triangle me out because I'm all kinds of shapes and forms at that time. I was like a bowl of spaghetti. At least that's how my brain felt. So I remember meeting a couple aunts and uncles and whatnot. Again, everybody's speaking to me in Spanish. I have no freaking idea what they're saying. But I'm just like shaking my head and everybody's smiling at me and happy. So I felt a good vibe. I just felt, even though I was missing my parents and the situation was tremendously traumatic, I still felt love for my family. My mom's family. Her brothers, her sisters, her mom, her dad. Uncle Rodolfo, rest in peace. I think I mentioned him in another podcast. So I started living with my grandma. This must have been in the summertime. She enrolled me, guys. Everyone, listen to this. This is what my grandma did. She enrolled me into a freaking Catholic school, guys. Catholic school. Yes, Catholic. Do I look Catholic to you? No. Do I practice Catholic religion? No. Do I practice any religion? No. Do I believe in God? Of course. Do I believe in the universe? Absolutely. Do I believe in higher power? I must be stupid not to. But Catholic school, F you. These freaking nuns walking around with their little fucking nun dresses or whatever they are, thinking they're top flight security of the fucking world, Craig. Man, they are hardcore. However, hindsight 2020, I have to say that I'm grateful for the education. It's not always a hindsight thing, when you're 8 years old, getting chewed out every day for every little thing. I mean, just imagine this. So this is my daily routine. So I was living in Mexico, Tijuana, which is the border with San Isidro and San Diego. It's the most internationally crossed border in the world, in the world. Tijuana and San Isidro. Check your facts. Now, in order for me to get to school that started at 8 o'clock, 7:30, well, 7:45, I had to leave I had to get picked up by this lady that she would drive like kids that were all from the same school because her kid went there too, and she would charge like each family money to like drive around and be kind of like a personal little like minibus for kids just going to Mount Carmel, which is the school that I went to, OLMC, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, in San Isidro and California. So I was the first one to get picked up, and I was the last one to get dropped off. So I would have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to put my uniform on, rush, whatever, brush my teeth, no breakfast, getting picked up at 5 in the morning, and having to drive around for another hour to an hour and a half, picking up other kids that are all older than me, driving in this little minibus type thing to school, always being made fun of, always the new kid on the block, everywhere since I was a kid. And it was extremely anxious and a vibe that I was never used to. And this is what really molded me, is I think I guess it's just tough love, you know what I mean? Because now that I think about it, all those fools are my homies. I was just I was in fifth grade and they were like in high school. You know what I mean? So just imagine that, how high school kids are, how and how bullying used to be back in the 90s. Bullying in 2024 like barely exists. This generation is so hypersensitive to words, to actions, to this, to that. Guys, in the 90s, we used to say gay all of the time. We used to call people fags all of the time. Again, a fag, and I'm part of the LGBTQIA community. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything, and I want you guys to leave your comments, especially that community. I grew up using the word gay and fag in a different connotation in 1990s. I'm from Tijuana, which if you are trans and Tijuana is the capital of all transgenders. Before the United States allowed transgender operations to happen in the United States of America, all of my people used to go down to Tijuana, where we have the best doctors, better than the United States. The doctors here in the United States go and study to the University of Guadalajara, where my uncle studied medicine, and he is now an ER doctor and still learning brain surgery and whatnot. We have the best doctors in Mexico. We have the best food. We have the best care. It is an amazing place, and I encourage anybody to visit Tijuana. It's safe. Just don't get in trouble. It's simple as that. But going back to my podcast here, because I went off on a little bit of a rant, but it's still tangible. But so crossing the border, yeah. So I would get picked up and dropped off the latest. So literally, it would take me like 2 to 2.5 hours to get to school. I was always late, and then 2 to 2.5 hours to get home. So if I'm getting off at school, like at what do you get off of school at 2:30? I get picked up by 3 p.m. because she was always late, and then I get dropped off by 5:30, 6 p.m. So what I would do is I would just do my homework on the way to school and from school because Catholic school ain't no joke, homie. They give you the heaviest books, the most hardcore teachers. The education level is definitely higher, and they do not ease up on you at all. There's no like, oh, he's a little bit slower. No, fuck that. They're like rulers to your hands, and let's go. And I learned a lot. I was always in trouble, of course, in Catholic school. It was just me being me. I spent a lot of time in the principal's office. I remember one time I was in the principal's office waiting to see the principal in like the little like lounge area outside, and they had this giant fish tank. It was so cool. I had a bunch of cool like tropical fishes, and it was just awesome. So I naturally stuck my hand in the tank to grab one of the cool tropical fishes. I wanted one. So what do you do when you want something? You get it. You know what I'm saying? I must have had that hustler's mentality since I was a kid. If you want something, you gotta go out and get it. I had the opportunity to have a tropical fish for free. Why would I not grab it and put it in my pocket? I was like 8-year-old kid, 9-year-old kid. So she happens to walk out right when I'm grabbing the fish, and the fish is like trying to skedaddle out of my hand. So you already know, double trouble for me. I don't know if you guys remember in school, like different teachers had like different ways of reprimanding people. But like I remember in Catholic school, it was like the green card, yellow card, like orange card, red card, or something like that. And like every time you do something in the class, it'd be like, go change your card. And you have to get up and walk and change your card. And if you got to red, then you have to go see the principal. So I was like, just keep my card on red, because like I'm always going red, because I'm red Ivy, homie. Since I was a kid, I guess I already knew that I was red Ivy, Rosani Red Eye. But man, these nuns were strict. Um, the uniforms were itchy, and the prayers were endless. My God, Catholics, Jesus Christ, can you not just say something nice and wrap it up really quickly? What's with all those formalities in your uniforms? Like, literally, so I get to school in the morning, late. And right in the morning at the beginning of class, um, we all have to line up in front of our teachers, like if we were military, and they check our uniforms. So you have to make sure all of your gear is from the school, Mount Carmel issued. Your nails you can't have any dirty nails or long nails. They check your fingers. So they put you in line from shortest to tallest. I'm short, so I was always first. And you had to have black shoes with laces, and you had to have navy blue socks, navy blue pants with the crease in the middle, a black belt, a white buttoned up t-shirt that was tucked in directly with your button with the middle of the belt, with a v-neck sweater t-shirt that had the patch of OLMC over the left side, and you had to have your hair combed nicely, your face and your teeth brushed, and they would walk by and they would check your socks. A lot of people wore white socks, you know what I mean? because we're kids. We don't care. So I would always get reprimanded for that. Um, and then, but that's when I started this really bad habit of biting my nails. I don't know if you guys have that habit. It's never been a nervous thing. I started biting my nails because I always forgot to cut them. And I would always be biting my nails on my way to school to make sure that the nuns didn't get me in trouble. And until this day, I bite my nails. And I know it's a bad habit and it's gross or whatever. You can judge me all you want, but you ain't God, homie. But my nails and my feet and everything looks clean. I'm always looking clean. Even though I'm a grungy punk rocker from hell, that's my greatest attribute. Because I am the demon slayer. And I will attract those type of people that need God in their life the most. That's why a lot of people don't understand me or are misunderstood as an artist, is because I'm not I'm not here for small potatoes. I'm going big. I'm going on all the big stages. I want to spread God's word cloaked in darkness so it can get to all these people that need God the most. God has always been around for me, and I'll never let him down, and I will always fight till the very end. Um, but yeah, Our Lady of Mount Carmel, wow, that is a very educational institute. Man. But everything, all of our classes were in English, so I mean, our education was San Diego. Our lifestyle was Tijuana. So I call this all border kids, or border culture is what I would call it. And there's thousands and thousands and thousands of kids like me, or when I was a kid, doing the same thing. They still do it today, every single day. That border crosses hundreds of thousands of people to school, to work. They're the ones over here putting in all the hard work, all the Mexicans doing all the jobs that a lot of people don't want to do. And I remember that they were making fun of me because I went to a private school. Okay, the school's expensive. My grandma was well off compared to these other kids that I went to school with that their parents are fucking narcotraficantes. They're all in the cartel and mafia. These are all of my friends that were in my class. Like their parents are like true Tijuana cartel, like OG fucking gangsters. That's why I've always had the ability to feel lucky in my life to have friends like that, because I got to experience a lot of things that I wouldn't have if I would have grown up differently. But I remember my grandma would, she would buy me my clothes and my uniforms that were from the school, but all the kids had like all the new Nikes, all the new Vans, like all the cool shoes and Reeboks and all this. And I remember there's this street in La Constitucion in Tijuana where they sell knockoff everything. You can buy knockoff anything, just like in China. So I remember my grandma took me to buy some white shoes because 2 days a week we had PE, physical ed, and we would wear our sweatpants uniforms and we had to have all white shoes. And I remember I wanted these Nikes so bad, so bad. I was like, I want these Nikes. Everybody's wearing Nikes, grandma. Da da da. She's like, I don't care. I'm getting you whatever I can afford you. And she bought me a pair of knockoff Reeboks that were all white. The old school Reeboks that were all white that everybody knows. The one that became like the new Kanye shoe. The old school dad white Reebok shoe. That's the one I want. I was like, that's cool. They're Reeboks. But no. Come to look at it, when you see where it says Reebok, it said Red Book. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get my ass beat at school. Everybody's going to make fun of me. This is horrible. And I begged my grandma. I begged and begged and begged and begged her. I'm like, please, get me another brand. I was like, don't send me with these shoes to school. Like, you don't understand. No, no, no. But with my grandma, you couldn't say no. It's just whatever she was the ruler. It was like whatever she said, that was it, and that was it. I was one of her, or still am her favorite grandchild. So I would get away with a little bit extra, but she was very, very tough. I mean, cruel. Some would even say Hitler, like, but I wouldn't go that far because my she's not a racist or anything like that. But yeah, so I remember going to school the next day, and that was like my worst fear is the shoes, and of course, the very first thing that the bullies notice is that I'm wearing some knockoff Red Books Reebok shoes and become the laughing stock of the fucking whole school. And it just reflecting now, it just shows me grew to be more resilient. You know, even though people were laughing at me and this and that, and I remember I would get home and wait for my sister to get home from her classes and from college and everything because she was my rock. She was the only one that knew English that I could vent to about what had happened at school. And she was my protector and my rock, and my parents went around, and I love my sister so much. I love you, Brenda. She was the one that went to all of my like school functions, when they had PTA meetings. Like my sister was my parent. She went to my graduation when I graduated from Mount Carmel, and I remember I played in the band in Mount Carmel. That's when I started playing guitar, actually. Um, I think 9 or 10. I um, tried to be in choir. However, I remember my music teacher, Mr. Amador. Um, so I tried out for choir every year, and I never got picked because I just had a bad voice. I didn't have that angelic voice that they're looking for in choir. So he said, you know what? Let's go ahead and move you to guitar. He said, have you ever played guitar before? I said, no, but I love rock music and I want to learn how to play. So he taught me how to play guitar. And I remember at this time my dad was finally kind of reappearing in my life. All that I knew about him is that he was in a rehab for heroin and drug addiction at a halfway house, and he had finally gotten better to the point where he was able to see me every other weekend. But I'm gonna save that for the next podcast. But I really just wanted to reflect on my childhood and my identity, and again thank my sister for being my rock and letting me figure things out on my own when I needed to. And oh, quick funny story. Now that I'm reflecting on my childhood and these cultural bridges that I had to cross, I remember I was, getting a little bit better with my Spanish or whatnot. And like my job at the house, because my grandma set assignments and tasks and what we call chores here in the United States for everybody. So mine was to clean, to sweep and mop the front and back patios, to go get my grandpa his newspaper, and to get any groceries that might be needed from the local store. I would go on my bike and bring stuff back. But my grandma, of course, would always forget something. So each day I'd have to go to the store like 5 times a day. But anyway, I went to the store one time and my grandma wanted me to get some hot dogs, some wieners to cut up and put in, or she's making hot dogs. I don't know what it was. So I'm like thinking to myself, okay, I'm gonna get a little fresh with these guys at the store. They've been making fun of me for a long time and a little bit more Spanish now. I'm gonna do a direct translation and I'm gonna ask them for what my grandma wanted. So I'm riding my bike to the store, driving my bike, pull up to the corner store, feeling a little confident. And I walk up to the guy and I said, hey, ¿tienes perros calientes? And he looks at me like, what the? And I'm like, excuse me, ¿tienes perros calientes? Tienes perros calientes, perros calientes, perros calientes. And they just start laughing and bawling at me, dude. Like I was like, what's going on? I just said it right. Hot dog. Hot is caliente and dog is perro. Perro caliente, hot dog. I was like, there's no way I could have fucked this up. This has to 100% be correct the way to say it. And they're like, oh, you want a perro caliente? Oh, they're like, oh, you want a hot dog, like in an innuendo kind of way. Because they're older and I'm a kid. They're just making fun of me. And I thought I was super badass, right? And they're like, no, no, no. No se dice perro caliente. They're like, no, it's not said. They're not called hot dogs down here. That means a dog that's, in fever, or a dog that's like hot, like wanting to have puppies. And I'm like, whoa, hold up, wait a minute. Um, I was like, no, 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 no. I want hot dog, like weenies. He's like, oh, weenies. And they started laughing even more. He gave me a little pack. He gave me a pack of weenies. And then I had a note from my grandpa because this is in TJ, bro, like 30 years ago, dog. More than 30 years ago. My grandpa would write me a note that would say, give my grandson a pack of, um, Aguila cigarettes or whatever cigarettes he would smoke. And then he would sign it. And I'd show up to the store with a piece of paper. I'd give it to the guy. And he handed me a pack of cigarettes at the age of 9 years old, 10 years old. Because he knew who my grandpa was. And that's how it is at the stores down there. Even when you didn't have money, if you were a client of the store and they saw you go in there every day, they had a little notebook and you can go in there as a kid and get your chocolates and shit and just ask them to write it down for you like credit. And they would just write it down, and then you got to a certain amount, they'd be like, oh, you owe 100 pesos, which is like 100 pesos now in today's dollars is like, $5. That was a whole week of stuff for me. And I just go ask my grandma and be like, hey, I owe the guy $5. And the taco place would do it for me too. I'd eat tacos there as much as I wanted to. The video store, the pizza place, they all knew my family. My grandma is very renowned. My family is very renowned in Tijuana. So I could go anywhere and eat and drink anything for free, and then my grandma would pick up my tab as a kid, right? But um, yeah, that was a funny story, man. They really got me. They really got me with that. I mean, I was a kid eating tacos for breakfast, but packing peanut butter and jelly for lunch. I mean, if that's not a border child, you know, I'd call it. It can't be transgender, but it could be cross-gender or cross borders or something that has to do with metamorphosis because that border changed my life. Having to go through Homeland Security every day. Back in the day, you could just cross and say U.S. You didn't have to show identification. You didn't have to say you're a citizen. You didn't have to show nothing. You just say U.S. citizen or U.S. going to school or whatever. They just let you walk right back. And just for, some, I guess, closing thoughts or whatever you want to call it, I guess the reflection that I have of being a stranger in a strange land it really taught me to adapt, laugh, and find my way. And even when the odds were against me, and looking back, I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything in life because they molded me to be who I am today. And I am proud to be a citizen of the United States of America. I only belong to this beautiful country. I have no dual citizenship. I was an American citizen living in Mexico, crossing my border every day to get my education back and forth, 4 to 5 hours a day. I earned it. I earned all of my education. And if you've ever felt like a stranger in a strange land, please share your story in the comments or on social media. I would love to hear how you navigated it. Like, how did you get through it? Where did you come from? What's your story? I would love for you to share that in the comments. Thank you guys for listening to episode 5, Crossing Borders. And I would like to also invite you guys to subscribe to my page, give it a like, leave your comments. I want this to be very interactive, and I would love to hear where you're from, what your story is, and have you as a guest on my podcast. So, next time in episode 6, I'm going to go ahead and I'll share more a little bit about my time in Tijuana, the challenges that I faced, and how eventually I found my place there. So, stay tuned for more. My sister, I'll be seeing her tomorrow, and I will be having my holiday vacation with her. So you can expect tons of new content on all of my pages, all of my social medias, my YouTube. And I would like to thank you all again for tuning in to Tijuana to Vegas podcast, brought to you by Portals. Your boy Dana Dow, aka the Double Dipper, aka Rizani Red Ivy, aka Red Eye. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode if it resonated with you. Thank you very much, and I hope you guys all have a beautiful weekend. Signing off, your boy, Dana Dow Jr.